Who are they? The men and women that spend lifetimes crafting and rebuilding small pieces of history.
I go back to
They're not magicians or wizards, but they are craftsmen, artists, and visionaries with a specialized set of skills and tools.
I go back.
And that's what it takes to put a fresh but familiar face on a theater built in 1921.
I go back.
And that's also what it takes to strip a nearly destroyed lobby down to its bones
I go back.
in order to recreate the original vision of a master nearly 100 years later.
I go back.
These men and women have a special gift, and it's helping to restore a legacy.
Thinking of.
In 2015, Cleveland's Playhouse Square embarked on a mission to refresh the look of the State Theater lobby and auditorium and completely demolish and recreate the lobby of the Ohio Theater so that it could be returned to its original 1920 splendor. Work that's made possible by funds raised through the not-for-profit Performing Arts Center's Advancing the Legacy campaign. The project would be a labor of love for Playhouse Square's VP of Facilities and Capital, Tom Einhaus, who'd had this project in his sights for many years.
Why is this important? It really completes the restoration. When you think about the Hannah, the Connor Palace, the Ohio, the State, the Allen, every one of those has all of their original elements in place. And we'll finally have the opportunity to put the one big missing piece of the Ohio Theater back in place.
The buildings, they not only are a place for people to go and, forget about their workaday world and be transported to another time and place, but they also represent something to the people who live here that, what kind of city do we live in? What kind of city do we want to live in? And so why are they putting it back? I think it's a statement to all of Cleveland, that we have this incredible cultural asset, probably the greatest number of theaters anywhere in the world, all right here in Cleveland. And that's worth celebrating and worth putting back to the way it was.
Both the Ohio and State Theaters were designed and built by renowned American architect Thomas Lamb. Incredibly, both theaters opened their doors in 1921.
Thomas Lamb designed more than 50 of these huge theaters in American cities, from Detroit to New York to Chicago to Cleveland. You think you're in something that dates back several hundred years, and that was the fantasy. You walk through the door and you're just going to have this magical experience of being transported to another place, another time.
The Ohio Theater operated as a legitimate theater until 1935, when it was redecorated in an Art Deco style to accommodate the look of a supper club. The Ohio was next converted into a Lowe's movie theater. Thomas Lamb's original decorative design was eventually restored in 1964. However, mere weeks after this restoration, the Ohio Theater's lobby was accidentally destroyed by fire.
The fire actually started on this wall here to my left. It was a piece of concession equipment. They think it was a motor that burned up, and when you think of popcorn and popcorn oil, and it was a very hot fire and was very damaging. After the fire, it was put back in its simplest form in the kind of 60s way of doing things at the time. And what was this staircase here was some months later than this staircase here. Kind of sad.
This restoration project includes a fresh face for the State Theater. During its original restoration in the 1980s, the State Theater was painted by hardworking volunteers. But after more than 30 years of wear, it's time for a fresh coat of paint, among other improvements. Through serendipity and a little bit of luck, the Ohio Theater was the first of the Playhouse Square theaters to be saved from the wrecking ball and renovated in 1982.
And when we were able to reopen it, the focus understandably and necessarily was on the theater itself. And so the lobby was restored to very nice space, but it was all the more tantalizing to know how beautiful and glorious it was when first opened.
So a few years ago, we took a look at what were our future needs for Playhouse Square. We then developed a plan where it totaled $100 million, and that $100 million is really for the future of Playhouse Square. And that's why we titled the campaign Advancing the Legacy.
In addition to the work being done to the Ohio Lobby and State Theater, funds raised through the campaign are providing for other capital expenditures, additional programming, education initiatives, the completed Dazzle the District neighborhood transformation, and a theater restoration endowment for the future care of Playhouse Square's historic theaters.
The team that is doing the project starts with Evergreen. Evergreen's out of New York. It's Evergreen Architectural Arts. Jeff Green, who owns Evergreen, he has a whole group of artisans that work for him. Jeff partnered up with Dependable Painting, and they are doing all the plaster work and ornamental painting. We're going to be replacing the 3 chandeliers in the state lobby. We're working with St. Louis Antique Lighting for that.
Other important members of the team include the architects of Westlake, Reed, Leskoski, and fellow Cleveland standouts, the Coniglio Company, and Turner Construction, who will oversee construction elements of the project and project management. The team has some big tasks and a long road ahead of them. The work begins first in the State Theater in the summer of 2015.
The whole project is to redecorate the State Theater, starting at the Euclid Avenue doors and going all the way back to the proscenium. It's a unified approach, finally, of getting the state to where it should be.
Tom and I have known each other for a long time. He would tease me. One of these days we're going to paint the State Theater, right? It's like, yes, please, in my lifetime, all right? And so he says, I think we're getting ready, and called me in, take a look at it. And I suggest to him, okay, let's find out what the original colors were. And they weren't particularly handsome at all. And so the decision was made to use them selectively.
Along with a fresh look in the form of new paint, the state will also receive some needed plaster repair, updated wall coverings, and details like 2 new medallion murals in the ceiling and a stunningly fresh coat of gold leaf and paint to its colossal auditorium dome. The Ohio Theater, on the other hand, is a beast of another nature. The recreation of the lobby to its original state after being destroyed by fire is a much bigger undertaking.
In a 38-year career, that's a first, where we've seen somebody recreate something that was completely gone and faithfully to the original. That's really an extraordinary initiative.
The recreation of the Ohio Lobby involves hours of research and advanced forensic techniques by the experts at Evergreen Architectural Arts and Playhouse Square. The blood, sweat, and elbow grease are all in an effort to recreate a dome ceiling containing hundreds of feet of detailed plaster ornamentation, 3 30-foot murals, 8 columns, fine marble and woodwork, and the recreation of the grand staircase balustrade, to name a few of the major elements.
So directly behind me are remnants of the original plaster walls. As we looked at how to put the room back together, this was the one area where we found really helpful pieces.
We climbed up above the ceiling and found the 2 end walls that had little remnants on them. And we lucked out because when had broken the cornice off, they had thrown the pieces back in behind the walls. So there were some good-sized pieces there.
This beam structure had this on one side, then this pattern in the middle, right, like this, and then another piece here. We found enough of this up in the cornice that we don't have to pay to have this carved, and we have the original dimensions of everything in here. That section is where we pulled a casting of that cornice. So that's going to be used to create the whole new cornice that'll go the perimeter of the lobby.
I mean, this is the fun part, is when you discover all these, little bits and pieces, and they're helpful, and there's secrets to be revealed, right? For me, that's exciting, Tom, there's canvas still on here. Look at that. There's still canvas on here.
Do you actually think you'd be able to clean anything off of that?
That might be a clue. It's like urban archaeology. You're taking all these little potsherds, these broken pots, and then make some deductions from, well, what was this culture like?
As the demolition of the Ohio Lobby begins in Cleveland, the work of creating the plaster details and the painting of the murals begins at Evergreen Architectural Arts, New York City Workshop. The teams are at full steam.
This is one of the most fun parts of the project because we're not on site yet, so we don't have to, wrestle with, the site conditions and the logistics. So we can work in the studio, everything's under our control. The stress hasn't started yet, all right? We've reconstructed theaters, but not quite like this. It has every creative component in it. So there's sculpting and plaster, there are the murals, we're right down to the carpet. So there's all these different decorative paintings, all these different components all in one project. So it's kind of wonderful in that regard.
A major component of the Ohio lobby is the 3 30-foot murals that adorn its walls. With the goal of recreation, the team was forced to get very creative and leaned heavily on modern technology. Source photography of the murals was less than ideal.
We started with the references that we could find, all the historical photographs of the lobbies, like this photograph here, which was our main source, and the one underneath it, which show what the murals look like somewhere around the time that the theater was first built, or just shortly afterwards.
So we took those, flattened them out on the computer, printed them here. So we have, this one is quite detailed. We can pull it from here, flatten it out, we can see all the detail. This one, the whole center's gone.
So it's a lot of detective work on our part. Vicki spent a lot of time researching and combing through sources that these murals may have been taken from.
Like the wing is a clue.
And so we went back and looked at all the classical paintings and found images of most of the figures, and those figures that we couldn't find images of, we brought in models and photographed them, and then we'll work from those as well.
A lot of people look at these things and say, well, why don't you just blow it up? That's where the details get lost.
Yeah, where the love is put in.
Where the love is put in. There you go, too.
So we're in the plaster studio now, and this little room here is like a magician's hat. Entire buildings come out of this one little room. One of the biggest finds that we had on site, there was a section of cornice here. So this, we went to the site and we were able to cast this, and this tells us, gives us so much information. It shows, all the repeated patterns, all the detail, shows us what the proportions are, what the scale is. This piece here is the guilloche beam, and again, finding this, you can see here that, it's just all fire damaged and broken, but this gives us enough information. We know what the repeat is, we know what these specific leaves are. You couldn't see this in the photograph, and you certainly can't see this level of detail in the architect's drawings.
In Evergreen's plaster studio, project manager Max Newroth and his team have been working hard to recreate the plaster festoons that will be placed just below the dome ceiling.
At some point, the ceiling or somebody knocked these ornaments down post-fire, and it grabbed some of the wall with it, and it pulled it out and left these very pronounced and articulated scars on the wall. And we scanned it, and we were able to build a 3D model of the wall.
And then what we were able to find is these fragments had fallen down and were stuck inside the cornice. And so these are all the molds that were made on site. You can actually see the hand of the original sculptor. You can see his tool marks, you can see how much relief there was here. So these were incredibly important clues for us to be able to construct this thing as authentically and as accurately as possible.
You come into a space that's got all of this original ornamentation that's been, for the most part, considered lost. And it's very exciting to be able to actually see the original artist's hands.
It's November of 2015, and Tom Einhaus pays a visit to Jeff Green and his team. Tom will be seeing the plaster details and the 3 murals for the first time.
Yeah. Wow. I've seen only the little pictures.
Right, no, now they're big pictures.
Yeah. That's amazing. Now, are these the models you brought
These are
in?
the models, yeah.
Okay.
And again, you know, we dress them up.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
There,
thank you.
there you go. Wait,
Thank
wait,
you.
wait, wait, you gotta get a picture.
Good morning. Wow. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Good color, good rich color.
Yeah, you know, it's just that lobby is going to be so wonderful.
Oh, it's gonna be fantastic. I tell you, this is a once in a career project.
So colorful.
Had you been here since we started sculpting and casting everything?
Some of it, a little bit of it was done, and we weren't anywhere near this far. Oh, there you go. Gotta get a picture
Well,
of that.
but you can see what it was. I mean,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is
that is
what we took
awesome.
off the wall, you
Yep.
know, to get all the dimensions.
Yep.
There it is put together.
Wow. So you took the original, right? And you brought it back, and like there's chunks out of it and all that, and then you would take that casting.
Yeah,
and then
same exact process.
Clean it up.
Yeah, exactly. We made took a mold from on site, made a
Yeah.
rough cast,
Yeah.
completely cleaned that up until it was perfect, then made the production mold from that, and then the production pieces.
What is this?
That's the center ceiling.
Is that where the
That's-
chandeliers go?
This is next panel. So this is this panel right here.
Oh, okay.
So,
So-
that lines up with this. Okay.
Jesus.
So when we place all of these, then we'll know exactly where these go.
Right.
It's gonna be great.
Yep.
Back in Cleveland, the work continues in the State Theater. Just like most creative projects, the job requires some on-the-fly adjustments.
So if you take that color as a color, add white to it, get it to this value, I think it'll be cool enough, first of all, to have a nice relationship to this. Let's try it.
Okay.
All
I'll
right?
do it right now.
Okay, good, thanks. You know, you don't come up with a design and then paint by numbers. You have to keep looking and evolving the design and fine-tuning it and adjusting it to get it to lock into the space with the lighting conditions, with the drapery, with the carpet colors. All of those elements have to work together. Yeah, that's perfect. Because it makes a relationship between this, works perfect with the marble.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So the Ohio lobby is at kind of full pitch right now. The ceiling work is progressing beautifully. The installation is tracking really well, and the results are exactly or even better than we had imagined.
The festoon that has been recreated literally from the ashes is ready to be hung. Evergreen's Max Newroth has made the trip in for the installation.
So these are the most historically accurate pieces because these pieces came off of molds that we actually found original parts for in the old theater.
Down below at ground level, the work continues. The 8 columns and capitals that climb to the ceiling are installed. And so is the hand-tooled woodwork that covers the lower part of the walls. Even further below, the reconfiguration and update of the restrooms is finally finished. It's April now, and some of the finishing touches are finally arriving at Playhouse Square.
You might be able to do this piece.
The 3 30-foot murals have been shipped from New York to Cleveland, and the team is here to see the first mural unpacked.
This is one of the murals that we painted in the studio.
Oh, it's just beautiful.
What's great about these theaters is the sense of grandeur. And that sense of splendor and grandeur creates a sense of place, and that's something Cleveland can build on as it moves into the 21st century.
Any space, again, it comes back to why do we value it? People making some kind of connection with it, emotional connection or an experiential connection, and that's what's important. And I would hope that for our times, that the same sense of wow would be there, that you come in and you go, oh, look at this.
We saw the Ohio Theater lobby project as part of a much larger package of improvements that are going to make Playhouse Square an even greater asset for Cleveland. We're a big fan of the arts and big supporters of the arts, but we're, at heart, big supporters of Cleveland, and we know how important this project is and this place is to Cleveland.
And when you consider its history, it was only here for a little over 40 years, and now it's back here.
To take a lobby that was spectacular in 1921 and to bring it back to that level of beauty and detail is something that is once in a career. And you can tell when someone has great interest in something, how their eyes light up and how they are just so energized. Once people see this, they are going to say, wow, I can't believe what you've done.